Welcome to Living Dvnly, a podcast for the woman becoming. I'm your host, Amber Janae, and Living Dvnly is where storytelling meets strategy, and the art of living well intersects with the art of building an authentic life and personal brand. From growth and branding to motherhood, love, and everything in between, each episode is a conversation on becoming and exploring the intricacies of identity, creativity, and intentionality. This is Living Dvnly. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Living Dvnly. I hope that you guys have your favorite beverage, whether that's a cocktail, a mocktail, tea, coffee, whatever the case. Grab it because today is going to be a really good conversation. I myself am having a nice chilled margarita, the best, sensational. Join me. If you need to pause it so you can join me, please do. I wish I could tell y'all how many times already that I have watched Netflix's Forever. I literally cannot count. But it is such a good show, and I cannot not indulge. I enjoyed it for the very first time, and I just find myself rewatching over and over and over again. And every time that I watch, I feel like I find something different that I love about it. Most recently, I think that what I've been appreciating is just seeing the healthy friendships. Like, it's not something that I noticed for the first time, but I've been appreciating seeing how Keisha and Chloe interact with each other and how they love on each other, but are also very honest with each other. So the other day while I was watching it, one of my girlfriends had called me, and we ended up being on the phone for like 3.5 hours. Like, we were just yapping. We talked about so many different things, but primarily we were just having like a really healthy conversation about friendship and openness. And on that call, we both just took a moment to reflect on how amazing and refreshing it was to be able to have those types of conversations and be open. For me personally, it's been a really long time since I've had really healthy relationships with other women. And I don't know, I just feel incredibly blessed that at this phase of my life, I genuinely feel like I've met and then also reconnected with some of the most beautiful women. And it's incredibly hard to find friendships that feel safe, that fulfill you, friendships that you feel secure in, and let alone being able to express your expectations and needs as a friend, and your friends being able to reassure you that you are safe with them. But that conversation after, we hung up, it also made me reflect and think a lot about how I had to do a lot of work on myself to even get to this point. Essentially, that realization and that deep talk that I had with my friend on the phone for hours is what inspired today's episode. I want to talk about something that is not always easy to admit, and I'm finally able to admit it because I think I'm in such a different space. But I have not always been a good friend. There were a lot of times when I didn't show up when I could have, times when I avoided the hard conversation. There were a lot of times when I was emotionally unavailable and without even realizing it. And it wasn't until I started to experience that same kind of hurt and disappointment from others that I started to fully understand how much I needed to self-correct, how much work I had to do. Losing friendships, especially ones that I deeply cared about, became a huge turning point for me. They pushed me into this space of reflection. And I started to look at myself and really ask important questions how have I contributed in the past to the pain of the people that I say that I love? How have I been showing up or not showing up? And how have I been hiding when I should be making myself known and being present in other people's times of need? I think the deeper that I looked into that, the more that I saw the root of everything. And it made me realize that a lot of my past behaviors and thoughts in previous friendships were because of my unhealed mother wound at the time. I grew up in an environment where love at times felt very inconsistent, often emotionally distant, and sometimes in different ways it felt silently cruel. I didn't realize until much later in life how deeply all of those experiences and feeling those ways shaped how I bonded with other women. And it also shaped how I navigated closeness, how I responded to conflicts or did not respond to conflicts, and how I either clung too tightly or pulled away too soon when just simply talking about things and conflict resolution could have solved whatever needed to be solved. When dysfunction is your baseline, sometimes you don't even recognize toxic behavior for what it is. You tend to excuse the behavior. You normalize it, and sometimes you even start to mimic it. You start to tell yourself that this is just, this is normal. This is how people are. But it's important that we acknowledge it's not normal. It's just what you've known, and you have to start actively working to release that. I look back at some friendships now and realize that I tolerated a lot of disrespect, a lot of manipulation, and even one-sidedness. And it wasn't because I didn't love myself or I didn't value myself. It's just because those patterns in a lot of ways felt familiar to me. And so I accepted what was normal when it should have been checked. And if I'm being fully transparent, like sometimes those familiar feelings feel a lot safer than the unknown, something that you've never experienced before. The more that I healed, though, the more that I had begun to notice the deeper layers, especially in my relationships with other women. Female friendships can carry a unique complexity with them. There's so much love and power and camaraderie and beauty in the relationships that we build with other women. But then there is also a lot to those relationships that we don't talk about, like how often we write off certain behaviors, choosing not to name them. I've heard a lot of women say, like, I don't want to call it jealousy, or I don't want to say that she's envious of me or assume these things because this is my girl, this is my friend, and she would never do that to me. And I get it. I've been there. I fully understand that. But we hesitate way too much to name something because we are taught that naming the behavior or labeling another woman as envious or jealous of us is us choosing to be petty or egotistical, being full of ourselves, or just overly dramatic. The reality is your feelings are valid. You should never ignore or hesitate against what your intuition is telling you. And then sometimes the jealousy is very real and present in the relationship. It's not always an obvious or malicious type of way either. Sometimes it's just really subtle. It can show up as passive aggression. It could show up as dismissiveness. The shifts in energy, sometimes they just at a low point and they be tired, sick and tired of hearing you be happy when they consistently catching L's. Like, that's no fault of your own, but that's sometimes the reality. And it's not always because they dislike you. Sometimes it's literally just because they are uncomfortable with how deeply you love and like yourself. They are uncomfortable sitting in close proximity with people who are winning when they are losing. What I've learned and realized is that a lot of women are still figuring out who they are. They are not fully settled in the current version of themselves. So when they meet others and they build community with someone else who's walking in their power, they are grounded, they are self-assured, they are clear in their identity, it can often stir up something in those women who are not settled in the current version of themselves. Your confidence can unintentionally become a mirror. And it's not always that mirror that says, I'm better than you or I'm the better friend, but it's often a mirror that reflects back all of the parts of them that they have not yet embraced. And when someone has not done the work, their insecurities speak way louder than their words ever can and ever will. Suddenly, there's this imaginary beef and competition, y'all at war. There's all this silent tension and shade being thrown. And there's just like this real visible and subtle shift in the energy. Like you can feel it. That's why, like I said, you should never discredit what you feel. If your intuition is feeling that, you may not always be able to explain it, but you're feeling it, and don't discredit what you're feeling. Something that I've had to learn though is that even when I trust my own feelings and my own intuition, I have to be mindful of not internalizing whatever it is that they're throwing at me, because it's rarely about you. It's about what your presence evokes within them. When someone is unsettled in themselves, it's a given they're going to project on you. And you have to decide if you are going to allow yourself to shrink to soothe them and soothe their ego, or you're going to keep standing in your truth. I've learned to let people be, just let them go, and let them ride in whatever feelings that they're feeling, and to not be bitter about it, to not feel any type of discomfort about letting people be and sit in whatever it is that they're sitting in. But also doing those things with compassion, because now I know that not everyone is malicious in their intent or malicious in their behavior. Sometimes it is things that are beyond their control. I'm also learning that not everyone is meant to walk beside you in every season. So it's important to have compassion for the relationships that you naturally part ways with. Some relationships are meant to teach you. Some relationships are meant to reveal things about you and the other person for the sake of building awareness in the future. And then other relationships are just meant to initiate the next level of your becoming. What I do know now, though, is that every friendship that has ended, even if it was painful, especially when it was painful, it has given me such a clear mirror. And some mirrors have showed me where I've abandoned myself in friendships in the past. And then others have showed me where I've actually abandoned the people that I said I loved. And somewhere within that process, it's when I began to become a better friend, not just to other people, but also to myself as well. I've learned that being a good friend, showing up for myself, loving on myself, nurturing myself is so important. And being a good friend isn't just about perfection, whether it's with myself or others. It's about being present, and it's about being honest and listening. It's about knowing when to apologize and when to set a boundary and be open to asking for an apology when you've been hurt. It's about creating space and also not being ashamed to take up space in front of the people who say they love you. And it's also about learning to love someone enough to let them go. In this phase of life, I now am just trying to show up differently. I try to be that person who is checking in and checking in often, and not just checking in when I need something or when something is wrong, but because I genuinely care. Hey girl, how are you doing? And if we're talking, making sure I'm reminding my friends, like, do something nice for yourself. You've been working hard, like, take care of yourself. Just trying to be that sound voice that reminds them that they are loved and they are lovable, and the love that I give to them, they also deserve to give to themselves. I try not to ghost the hard conversations. You can't even ghost the hard conversations when you are fully committed to showing up and being present with your friends. I take time to sit with my friends and return the clarity and the softness that they give me. I intentionally hold space now for the type of friendship I want to receive. Friendships that are grounded, intentional, and rooted in honesty and commitment. So if you are someone who is currently reflecting on a friendship that has ended, or you are just realizing all around, and no shame, that you haven't always been a good friend and you have not always shown up in the ways that you would have or could have or should have shown up, I want to be the first to tell you that you can always begin again. I have had to be so open and transparent to people that I love in the past and just say, hey, wait a minute. I've thought about this. I reflected on this, and my actions could have been totally different. I could have responded differently. I could have been more present for you and been more intentional in our relationship. And I think it's also important to also realize that every ending brings wisdom. You can't salvage every friendship. Every friendship is not meant to be salvaged. Even if you are someone who has salvaged a friendship and you realize that it's crumbling again, let it go. Every wound can also bring wisdom, but it can also be a lesson. And every day you have the opportunity to be a friend that you are proud of, being someone that you are proud of. And then also having friends who are proud to call you a friend. We like to discredit what it means to be a friend, what it means to have community, closeness, and relationship outside of romance. But I think the trajectory of the world around us really calls for intentional community. And I want to be the one to encourage that for you. We are in a time where we need to rely on our community and our friendships because they are going to be the very people that hold us up. One of my favorite things about my friendships is the barter system. Like, we have fully brought that back. Like, do me a favor, I'll bake you some bread. I will help you build your brand identity and I'm gonna get my hair done for free. Like, we are fully committed in bartering for each other. That's what community is about. And I just think that this journey that we're all on, it's just important to be open. It's important to be vulnerable, and it is important to be honest and not just crave community and friendship, but be open to it. And at the end of the day, you just have to be the type of friend that you want to have in your life on a daily basis. If you want somebody to call in and check on you, be the one that's calling and checking in. If you want somebody to create plans for you, be the one that's creating plans. If you want somebody to show up for you and be consistent, show up and be consistent. If you want somebody who is honest with you, knows how to talk to you, who rides for you, be that type of friend. Be the type of friend that is receptive to their friends doing well, living well, and being well, and not taking your friend's happiness, joy, and success as an attack on you. Just being a good person all around is how you attract the friendships that you want to attract. And that's it. That is our episode, friends. I want to thank you all for being here today. I hope this conversation poured into you more than anything. I hope this conversation inspires you to go out there and call that girlfriend if y'all fell out over something petty, or just go out there and do activities and exercises for yourself that will help you build or rebuild your relationship and your friendship with yourself so that you can be prepared to nourish the future friendships and the current friendships that you have in your present life. That being said, thank you so much for allowing me and Living Divinely to be a part of your journey. And if today's episode inspired you, if it resonated, if it moved you, please be sure to share it with someone else who is also on their journey to becoming. You can follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to follow me and join in on the conversation at Living Divinely. And until next time, stay rooted in your truth and refined by your own design. Thanks for tuning in, guys.